Hello, Ben McKinney here. Welcome to Indie Business Club, the podcast for creatives, freelancers, founders and business owners. This is a B-side where Mel Barfield and I have a shorter indie business chat. And play the slow music.
Let's say it like that. Cue the slow music. Today we're going to be talking about awards. We've already covered awards before. I think it might have been episode 14, 15. It was in the teens, I think, called Gladrags. No, that's not right. Handbags and Gladrags. And we talked a lot then about why people might want to apply to awards. And back then, Ben, you were a little bit sniffy about them. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, I think so. As in, not sniffy in terms of, you know, saying that people who won them weren't worthy of it or that it wasn't a good thing to do. It just felt like, is that something you really need? Do you really need that validation? Do you need the validation of kind of putting yourself forward for an award? And you said that was your answer at the time. Yeah. And I think we recorded that before you had gone to the Women in Marketing Awards 2024. And so you were up for an award, weren't you? At that point, you were up for...
Yeah, and I probably said, I don't mind if I win. Probably said that.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
We should have re-listened to the episode before we started recording this.
We should have done, but never mind.
But anyway, you were up for Brand Copywriter of the Year. You'd submitted a tone of voice document you created for Confetti. And you won, didn't you? You only went and won it.
I only went and won it. I did win it. I might have mentioned that several times since. Don't like to talk about it too much, of course. It's not like
that was episode 14. I think you'd stopped. I think you'd stopped mentioning it by around about episode 30. And but no, I think then what came from it and what came from working with you and seeing the positive effect that obviously winning the award, but just taking part in the awards and being a part of that little community, especially the Women in Marketing Awards, is a really brilliant kind of initiative anyway. And it has this lovely kind of social outreach on social media and on LinkedIn, and it's really celebratory. And I think that was the thing that I took from it, was how much validation it gave you, the boost it gave you, and not just you, everybody else as well. So Vicky Ross, who a friend of ours, who's a copywriter, she's really involved she's the judge of those of the copywriting categories, isn't she? And she's really good at putting it out online and making sure that women celebrate themselves. And that was something that I think that I took from it. Actually, I don't have to be sniffy about these awards. It was a really positive thing that you put yourself forward for it. And it was a really, really positive thing that you won. And it gave you a little kind of boost towards the end of the year, didn't it?
Oh, it definitely did. And I've had projects that I can directly track back to having won that. So financially, it's given a massive boost to my business. But reputationally as well, to be able to say, and I kind of had this silly, I want to be able to say I'm an award-winning copywriter, award-winning podcaster and international event speaker. And I've ticked off award-winning copywriter. We'll hopefully tick off award-winning podcaster. We'll come on to that in a minute. And I still need to get booked for like Dublin or somewhere. It's just anywhere that's not in the UK will do. So I can brag about being an international speaker. So that's still on my bucket list. But it all ties in with goals as well, doesn't it? We've had episodes talking about goals. We set a goal for becoming an award-winning podcast as well. And I think there's a bit of grossness. We talked about this in the last episode about awards. A bit of a kind of like, oh, I don't want people to think that I think I'm great, because then they'll think I'm big-headed, or, you know, I don't want to brag too much. Or I don't want to... there's also an element of like, I don't want to put myself forward in case I don't get anywhere with it and then feel a bit silly.
For our American listeners, that's a real British thing, isn't it? That kind of I feel a bit icky kind of putting myself forward for something, or celebrating myself in some ways.
I think the most recent stat is 13% of our listeners are in America. So hello
to our colonial friends. But in terms of goals, that was the following episode. That was episode 15. We talked about goal setting. And on that episode, that was off the back of you winning the Brand Copywriting Award at the Women in Marketing Awards. we set the goal of becoming an award-winning podcast. And that's kind of the reason why we're recording this today, because in a couple of weeks, we'll be going to London, won't we, for the Independent Podcast Awards. We've been shortlisted in 2 categories.
Yay.
And we're still celebrating.
Congratulations to
fact.
our producer, Ant P. Henderson, because one of the categories is the Jingle.
Jingle of the
which
year.
We haven't got on this episode because it's a slow jingle on a B-side. But
maybe next year we can put the slow jingle forward.
That feels like cheating, but yeah, let's do it. So it's the Jingle
I'm thrilled
Award.
about that. I love the jingle, and I think that when we had that made before we'd even recorded an episode, didn't we? And that was almost like our commitment to ourselves was that we wanted a really good, high quality professional jingle, and absolutely nailed it and nailed the brief. And it was a really enjoyable process to create it, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
I've thought about that a lot since we got this shortlist through, that actually the process of creating it was kind of part of the process of us building out the podcast. And when you do something like this, I was talking to you about this yesterday, wasn't I? That I want to do one of the emails I'm going to send out at some point, probably that coincide with maybe this episode coming out. It's just about starting something, because when you start something like this, you just start, don't you? And we didn't really have any other goals other than just to make something and see where it went. And you don't think to yourself, oh, in a year's time, we're going to go to an award ceremony and hopefully we'll win. But even if we don't, then we've got an amazing experience. And as part of the award ceremony, we haven't said this to anybody, we haven't put this out on any emails, but as part of the award ceremony, we've been invited to meet with Apple Podcasts beforehand at the Apple Store.
A little mixer, isn't it?
In Battersea, just
drinks
a little mixer,
and stuff.
And you don't think of any of this kind of stuff when you start something. You just start. That was the only goal. And then moving on, it's then good to maybe put some goals in. But I think coming to this point and thinking back, I've said this before on the podcast, I'm rubbish at looking back and kind of, I'm not a particularly sentimental person, but I don't really ever look back and reflect on achievements and what we've done or what I've done. And I think it's nice to do that in a partnership. It's nice to do that, for us to be able to do that and to think back. And it is only a year, when we were having when we decided on the name and then went ahead and kind of started recording. So I think it's been a really nice thing. It's kind of taken me out of my comfort zone in terms of, it took me out of my comfort zone a little bit, us putting the application for the award together, because it's worth saying that we nominated ourselves. We've seen the IPAs come up and we were like, we can probably nominate ourselves. So there was a little bit of work involved, wasn't there? We had to do the application form, and you clipped, I think we had to decide on 3 clips from various episodes and send them in. And it can feel a bit like, it's just us doing it. What's the validation? But actually, and I know the validation is that we got shortlisted, which is amazing. But it's been a really nice period of time since finding out a few weeks ago that we'd been shortlisted to actually look back and evaluate and reflect on what we've achieved and kind of what we've created and what we've done.
Yeah, and that is, I'm glad you pointed out that we applied ourselves. That's the same case with the Women in Marketing Awards as well. I applied for that myself. We have put forward somebody, I won't say the name, but a piece of copy or die work has been submitted this year. So fingers crossed on that. That's
definitely worth building on, because that kind of talks about how I felt about it a year ago, the definite change in my mindset towards it. I was really excited when we created a piece of work with a writer. Again, we won't mention her name, but maybe we'll reveal that in the future.
Fingers crossed,
and
fingers crossed.
Felt like the work was so good. I really wanted to put it forward, actually. So we nominated her, the Copy or Die team nominated her for the award, and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, that felt like, actually, wow, this is a really powerful thing that we can do as a business, is celebrate the person that we've worked with and the work that they've created with us. So that feels like a lovely thing. And even if it doesn't go anywhere, I think it will, because what she created was really good. Even if it doesn't,
don't jinx it.
But even if it doesn't, the internal kind of aspect of evaluating the work, realizing it's good and its power and everything, and then putting it forward has been a really good process. I enjoyed that too.
I think that's something that's great about awards, because you do have to kind of look back and investigate and interrogate, like how you approached stuff. Like with the Independent Podcast Awards, there was, I think some of the questions in there are about how like with the jingle, it was like, what process did you come to? And I think we also submitted for artwork because, I thought, well, chuck in all of the applications we can. Didn't get shortlisted for that, which is quite right because I'm not a graphic designer. But even that process was really nice. It was like, oh, actually, I remember the conversations that we had about putting this together, and we went back and forth so many times.
That took us the longest, the artwork.
Hundreds of times, literally, I think, on colours and on shapes and stuff and what these shapes would represent. And so in case you're wondering, the triangles in... we kind of might have retrofitted this after we decided we liked the look of it. The triangles in the Indie Business Club logo are to kind of represent that people are at different stages. So the 3 different sized triangles, people who are freelancers and founders are all on their own little path there, and also they kind of represent ups and downs as well. And we wanted it to look a bit like a record, so that's why it's got black around it. So there was a lot of thought. There are thoughts and decisions that go into these things, and you don't kind of acknowledge or recognize or appreciate that yourself necessarily until you start going, oh yeah, what did we do? How did we get to this point? So that is one thing about awards that I think is really powerful, even if nothing comes of it. Like with the graphics and artwork category, we're not shortlisted as finalists for that, but just the process of it can be quite validating and also help you to look ahead. Like, right, well, this is where we're at the moment. If we were to apply next year, what do we want? What kind of thing do we want to be able to present as evidence that we think we're doing a really good job? What are the components that we would need to make sure we're putting in place in our episodes between now and then? Like, what are the moments that we want to be able to clip and as examples of a good podcast next year? And I think it can form a really good part of your ongoing, not PDR, but like your ongoing review and kind of evaluation of what you're doing, where you're up to, where you want to go.
Yeah, I think it's helped us up our game as well in certain levels. I mean this from a Copy or Die point of view more necessarily than Indie Business Club, although it probably applies to that as well. So from a Copy or Die point of view, seeing your entry and the other entries that won or that were kind of shortlisted and nominated last year, I don't know, maybe it's the industry we're in and not everybody shows off their work. And I think we've mentioned this before on the pod that because we're writers, we're copywriters and usually creating tone of voice guides or website copy, it's not always the easiest things to display. It's not like if you're a graphic designer and you've created something really beautifully eye-catching or some really simple design. I really love simple design where you think, oh, have they made that so simple and clear? It might be a little bit easier to show off. But in our thing, we don't always see, sometimes works under NDA, we don't always see the kind of final product. So seeing stuff created by you, we definitely looked at our Copy or Die process and looked at how we could incorporate some of the decisions that you'd made into the tone of voice guides that we then produce going forward. And obviously you've worked alongside us on that. I
was going to say, you've also incorporated me into Copy or Die on a retainer basis since... I'd like to think you can say that it's because I won the award if you want. I'll allow it.
Let me focus on some of the other nominees as well. But it brought to our attention a couple of other nominees, and we're like, okay, so that we've seen the quality of their work. If we get in a job that is with a similar kind of client they've worked with, we know then that we could work with somebody. We've seen how good they are. So that has been really good as well. And we're going to,
Again, we won't say who, but there is someone that came onto my radar because of the Women in Marketing Awards, and then I, made sure that you knew about her as well. And I think is it next week? There's a project starting with her involved. So yeah, it goes back to the bragging and showing off your work as well, isn't it? But this is kind of almost like to the next level of. But
then for Indie Business Club, like it was interesting working out which 3 episodes to take clips from, wasn't it?
Tough.
We kind of said, let's both choose 3 and see what we come up with, whether we've got any overlap or whether we match up. And it was quite a challenge to work out which ones to pull out, I suppose, and to put forward. But as part of that, then you're seeing what you've created through somebody else's eyes or listening through somebody else's ears. That was an interesting thing because, like we said, when you start something like this, you just start and keep going. So it was a good opportunity to look back. And I think We haven't, because of things like summer holidays and all sorts of other bits and bobs and just work-life balance, we haven't recorded loads of episodes since we applied for the awards.
Yeah, we haven't.
So there's been this almost percolation period of different ideas and different what will the pod look like going forward? How are there any changes we would make? And that's come from looking back and sort of dwelling on what we've created in up to now, I suppose.
And the other good thing about doing the awards application is they literally had a list of like what they're looking for basically cool. What they're looking for is what makes a good podcast that people enjoy listening to. So that was useful in itself. So we've gone from awards being not convinced to being all in. We're all in on awards now. If you know of any other podcast awards, dear listener, that we should apply to be in, then let us know.
That'll do for today. If you're enjoying the show, please subscribe and leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And you can subscribe to our newsletter at indiebusinessclub.substack.com. Bye! Bye!